lot of times when you're replacing a floor on a project, it's gonna be easy for you to remove the trim. In this case, we have a paneled wall, we had trim, it was really easy, it hadn't been caulked yet to just remove the trim. We're gonna go ahead and put our new LVP floor in, and then we're just gonna put the trim back on. But sometimes if the trim has been caulked on, if the scope of your project is not as large, maybe you have a smaller budget, you don't want to remove your trim. So here's a way to do that and save time and money on your project if your trim is not easy to remove. Now in this room, we have an example of a space that had trim already, and the trim has been caulked and painted many, many times. So I didn't want to risk damaging it to remove it. I figured if I take this trim off, I'm going to damage the wall. I'm going to have to put a taller trim in. So I'm buying new trim. I'm taking the time in my project to remove that. We also have a lot of casings and door jambs. So we have our door coming into the room. We have double closets, but when you're installing the flooring in the closet, not only do you have the casings on the outside, you have the interior casings, you have the jambs, and I didn't want to have to remove all of these different components. So here's what we did. We've installed our flooring up to close to the edge, but we've left a relief gap because this is a floating LVP floor. We are required to have an expansion gap so it can expand and contract with temperature changes, with humidity changes. In my experience, in my area, that gap has not had to be as large. I think a lot of times they'll recommend a 1/4 inch. My gap is a little bit smaller just based on experience in my zone. Make sure you do what you're comfortable with and what your manufacturer recommends. But so of course this is not a finished edge. It doesn't look nice. So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna install a 1/4 round, and we're going to we're gonna paint it before we attach it. We're gonna reattach it over this, and then we're gonna fill in our holes. And then we didn't have to remove this or patch the wall if we got any damage when we were removing the current trim. Now in a situation like this, you have a couple options. You can undercut your trim instead of doing the 1/4 round solution like I was talking about over there. But you also, here's our big thing. This is our casing, this is our jamb. We're gonna undercut our door jamb so we can slide the flooring underneath, and then you have this nice perfect finish. You don't have those gaps like you sometimes see where people maybe aren't quite sure what they're doing and how to install a floor, and you can see these bad cuts right here. So we're gonna undercut these jambs. You can undercut your trim and force it under there, but we're not so worried about that. We're gonna just go ahead and, like we did everywhere else, add 1/4 round around the edge. But these jambs, because a door is gonna go right here, this is gonna be a closet door. And then for example, on a door, like an actual closing door jamb, we can't put 1/4 round in there if there was a gap, because the door has to be able to function and open and close. If we had 1/4 round there or some sort of trim, it would inhibit the function of our door. So these have to slide under without any extra trim there. Now in a case like this, we're just gonna put a piece of 1/4 round there, and that's okay, because that's just a trim piece. That's not a functioning part of a doorway or a pass-through. Now we have all of our flooring installed, actually in the whole house, which is a big relief. We're moving along, but we have this gap because we had to leave an expansion joint. So I've taken my 1/4 round, or your base of your choice, and I've cut these pieces, and we're just going to go ahead and attach these all around to cover the expansion gap that we left, and we still have our existing trim. Now this won't work with every trim depending on the shape. Some of them are curved and too short. Fortunately, it worked here. Don't know if this is my favorite design choice, but for a rental to get a floor changed, definitely works. It saves you a ton of time and money with not having to remove the trim, patch, caulk, redo all of that. So then we're just gonna attach this. My battery was dead. Now we're just gonna attach our shoe or our base, or however, whatever design you're using, all the way around. Now, if you've been around my channel, you know my favorite way to fill pin nail holes is with a fill stick. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Then if you wanted to, you could caulk this, you could paint it if you got a paintable one. Sometimes people get a 1/4 round that matches the floor. Totally up to you.